This is a weekend I will not forget for a very long time. I have to thank you so much for all you've done. It's unbelievable.
Assalamu alaikum. May the peace of God be upon you. My name is Jamaaludeen Khan, and I've just returned from a 4-day immersion event with Tony Robbins. It's called Unleash the Power Within, or UPW, and I want to share some of my learnings and experiences, as well as a major breakthrough that I had at the event. Before I get to that, however, I want to give you an overview of my life journey, how I found my purpose. This video is purposefully long, as teaching videos sometimes are. It's the single most important piece of content that I've put out, so I really hope that you will benefit from this. This video is divided into 5 parts. Part 1 is how I found my purpose over a 10-year struggle. Part 2 is why I went to UPW. Part 3, I will talk about the 4 big impacts that I had at UPW. Part 4, I will explain the major breakthrough that I had. And part 5, I will talk about turning knowledge into action. So let's get into it. Know thyself. This is a quote which Plato attributed to the scribes of Delphi. Once we know ourselves, we will know our purpose. People say, be yourself. That's the easy part though. The difficult part is to know yourself. Once you know yourself, to be yourself becomes easy. This is my story. On a Saturday morning in 2003, I was lying on the couch flipping through channels, and I come across an infomercial by Tony Robbins. Now, I'm a 24-year-old kid. I've never heard about Tony. I don't know anything about leadership or purpose or anything of the sort. But this infomercial is intriguing, and I keep watching. I keep getting intrigued by what this guy has to say. The price ends up being 4 to 6 times more than I anticipated. I can't remember the exact amount right now, but I still went ahead and I bought this product. What I bought was Tony's program called Personal Power. It's a boxed set of CDs. The tagline was the most successful personal achievement program of all time. It included subjects such as 3 steps to lasting change, the goal setting workshop, and many similar types of programs. I started listening to these CDs incessantly. Little did I know how it would impact my life over the next 16 years. Also included in the package was 2 audio cassettes, for those of you who remember what audio cassettes are. One of these audio cassettes was an interview between Tony Robbins and Dr. Stephen Covey. Now, at the time, I hadn't heard of Dr. Covey either. And this led me to read his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This book I've been recommending to people for years, and I'm very proud to say that not a month goes by that I don't teach this book in some or other form. It made a very big impact on me. Tony Robbins was thus my opening, my door into leadership work. And I became obsessed with this thing called leadership and purpose. And I started reading and studying everything that I could get my hands on. Tony Robbins, Dr. Stephen Covey, and later on Dr. John DeMartini, a human behavior specialist, became my contemporary heroes and formed the foundation of the speaking and coaching that I do today, along with the historical giants in the genre, of course. That was 2003. But let's rewind a little bit into my earlier days. I was blessed in my childhood to have several good Islamic teachers. Apart from my parents, my first two teachers were women, and that's a big story for another day. Thereafter, I graduated to the tutelage of the late Sheikh Yusuf de Costa, which many of you might know, and I studied Quran and fiqh jurisprudence with him for a number of years. So I grew up with a standard foundation in Islam. In 1996, however, when I was 17 years old, I started my journey to become a serious student of Islamic knowledge. At this age of 17, I had this awakening and I became really committed to studying and understanding Islam at a deeper level. I started reading quite a lot at that age. And as an expression of my studies, in 1999, I started an Islamic newsletter called Message Islam. I wrote long emails for 1 or 2 hours every single day, 5 days a week. And thankfully, it reached a global audience. Until today, I meet people who remind me about the Message Islam days. I ran this newsletter for 9 years until 2008. At around age 20, I moved my learning to the next level. I started spending substantial time with Islamic scholars. The first being Imam Idris Muhammad, the Imam of the Maitland Mosque at the time, and he's still the Imam there today. And I spent time with him at the mosque, and during the afternoons and evenings, I'd go to his home and spend time with him at his home, in his study, and with his family. And similarly, I started to spend time in the home of Sheikh Hussein Kriel. I observed these men, I learned from them, and importantly, I learned from their character before learning sort of knowledge from them. So these men impacted me. Then I buy a video cassette online. Who remembers video cassettes? Of Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, a US scholar, which many of you might know as well. And this lecture is called Be Great People. And this made a big shift for me as well. This lecture you can find today on YouTube as well. So I continue learning, I continue studying, and this is all pre-2003. Then 2003 happens. Tony Robbins enters my world. Dr. Covey enters my world. Then in the same year, 2003, I meet who is still my spiritual guide today, Sheikh Hazim Abu Ghazala. He is a Palestinian-born scholar who now resides in Jordan. And in the very same year, I also meet Sheikh Hassan Sisi, a scholar from Senegal in Northwest Africa. And although Sheikh Hassan has passed now, he's one of the people that I still have a piercing love for. So 2003 was a pretty big year for me. Lots happened that year. I met lots of people. I was exposed to lots of things in that year. So at this point, I'm immersed in leadership, in psychology, in human behavior, and also the Islamic sciences. 2004 rolls in, and now I start to question, what is my purpose? What is my life all about? Why was I created? What does all this mean? Finding my purpose was a 10-year struggle from 2004 until 2014. During this time, I read a lot, obsessively. I did lots of introspection. I dug into who I am and the events of my life. I reflected on everything, and I asked lots of questions to people that I respected. From every angle, I studied my life, and my earliest recollection of an important step I took was when I was 12 years old. So from 12 years old, I mapped important events in my life. Many people played a big role in my life during this 10-year period. Some of them I've already mentioned, and others are Sheikh Faraz Rabbani, Imam Afroz Ali, Dave Duwati, and many others. I have many people who I am indebted to during this 10-year period. One of the nagging questions that I had when I was searching for my purpose is, why was I not an Islamic scholar? Why didn't I study Islam from a very young age? Why did I not memorize the Quran at a very young age? And why was I not on my path to becoming a master of the Islamic sciences? This bugged me. However, a huge blessing that I had during this 10-year period was that I was on the right track. I was going somewhere, but I really didn't know where I was going. This is the grace from God, and being on that track really made a big difference to where I am today. Today, in 2019, I'm very happy, very pleased, and very blessed to be able to say that I know my purpose. I know why I was created, and life in its entirety makes sense to me. For many years now, in my coaching work, I've asked people, what is your purpose? Most responses to that question is a blank stare, because people are not often asked about purpose. The few people who do respond to the question, they'll say to me that they want to do good. Great. So I follow up with the question to ask them, what does that good mean? And most of them don't know. If you ask a Muslim why they were created, they will say very often to worship God. And if they have some Islamic knowledge and some Islamic understanding, they'll even quote the verse which talks about this. In the Quran, it says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, which means that God did not create jinn or mankind except to worship Him. Right? That's the purpose of creation, according to Islam. So, great. What is worship? Is it only the 5 obligatory prayers? Is it only the Hajj? No. Worship is everything that is good, that is pleasing to God. When I'm speaking and inspiring people, is that worship? Of course. When a mother is awake all night with a crying baby, is that worship? Of course. Anything that is good, coupled with the correct intention, results in that act being an act of worship. So, I have a hypothesis. This is my own personal viewpoint, so you can take it or leave it. There are 4 key points to this hypothesis. Firstly, the verse that I have mentioned, that we were created only to worship God. وَمَا خَلَقَتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. That's the first point. The second point is that Ibn Abbas, who is the cousin of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and Ibn Abbas was known as the Khabar of the Ummah, the great scholar of the Muslim community. And he was known as the best in tafsir, or explanation or interpretation of the Quran. So Ibn Abbas said that this verse, where it says liya'budun, that we were created only to worship God, liya'budun, he says that this means ta'arafun, if my Arabic structure is correct there, which means to know God. So Ibn Abbas says this verse means that we were created to know God. And many scholars later in the Islamic history have said that we cannot worship God without knowing Him. Point number 3, there's a very popular saying. Some say it's a weak hadith, some say it's not a hadith at all. A hadith is a prophetic narration. Nevertheless, the meaning of it is accurate, and many scholars have quoted this and have taught it. The saying says, Man arafa nafsahu arafa rabbahu. Whoever knows himself knows his Lord. Man arafa nafsahu arafa rabbahu. So to summarize this, these 3 points, we have number 1, we were created to worship God. That's in the Quran. Ibn Abbas says this worship actually means to know God. And the third point is that in order to know God, we have to know ourselves. Right? So these 3 points are my hypothesis in understanding that when you know yourself, when you know your purpose, you will actually actualize why you were created. Okay, so if we take that summary in reverse, it will say that once you know yourself, you will know God, and once you know God, you will worship Him, and that's why you were created. So I hope that makes sense. I'm a teacher. I was born to be a teacher. And this is in line with the prophetic narration which says, I have only been sent as a teacher, mu'allim. This is the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So my purpose is to teach. And I do that through something like this, through a video like this. And I do that through speaking and coaching and also writing. My purpose is not to be an Islamic scholar. And as I mentioned, this was the nagging sort of question that I had during my 10-year search. Part of my purpose, however, is to support the work of scholars. I've been very blessed to learn directly from scholars across South Africa and across the globe.
Because attributes of the creation are attributes of imperfection when applied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah? They're perfection to us, but not to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does that mean? If I call you, what's your name, Sidi? Jamaaludeen. He's always there, Jamaaludeen, Allah bless him. Jamaaludeen, I say he's genius. Is that a good attribute or a bad attribute? Good attribute. He's probably genius too. Boldness is a sign of being genius.
And I'm blessed to have very strong relationships with them. Part of my mission on earth is to take what they've taught me and to teach it to others. Based on the hadith, if it comes to mind right now, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Right? What the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, if you learn from me, even if it is one verse, teach it to people. I've been extremely blessed to speak and teach at Islamic institutes in various countries.
Alhamdulillah, today indeed we are honored, and I don't want to speak too long because indeed we want to be able to extract, or let me say take advantage as much as possible of our honored and esteemed guest today. We have none other than our Ustaz Jamaaludeen Khan. Ustaz Jamaaludeen is a professional speaker and a leadership coach.
Bismillah ta'ala, our brother Jamaaludeen Khan. And subhanAllah, the biography which was sent to me is WhatsApp can't manage, mashallah. Jayeed, ala kulli hal. Doctor is a professional thought leader and professional speaker and a coach, and he is also an avid student of the Islamic studies. Fadal, Doctor.
I've done a number of lectures, for example, at Medina Institute, and it's surreal to me that I sit in the same seat and teach students the same seat that is used by Sheikh Muhammad Al-Ninawi, who is my teacher. So he sits in the same seat and teaches, and I get to sit in that seat. To me, that boggles my mind. I've lectured at Islamic Peace College of South Africa, better known as IPSA, and I'm a student of these institutes, but I get to teach there as well. really amazing blessings. When I lectured, for example, at Mustafa College, I taught a class immediately after Professor Yasin Muhammad, and he's my first Arabic teacher. So in a way, I've become his peer, teaching the same students that he teaches, although he's still my teacher as well. What really blows my mind, though, is that I've been honored on 4 occasions to give the Jumu'ah talk at mosques in Cape Town and Joburg, and this is really amazing. Furthermore, scholars, Islamic scholars who are my teachers, now ask me to coach them. So now I become sort of a teacher to my teacher, and scholars send me their Jumu'ah talk by WhatsApp, for example, and they ask me to give them feedback. This is all amazing, and I'm not saying all of these things to impress you. I'm very humbled by these things. The reason I'm sharing this is to impress upon you the magnificence of opening yourself up to what God intended for your life to be, not what you wanted your life to be. Don't be rigid in your ideas or your plan. Be open to embrace God's plan for you. People that I've coached have told me that they've benefited from the likes of Covey and Robbins, etc., but that these people lack the spiritual and Islamic dimension. And that's why they came to me, because I teach the same things in terms of psychology and leadership, etc., but I also bring an Islamic dimension into the context. A Canadian entrepreneur called me the Muslim Tony Robbins. Now, I don't want to be Tony, because my job is to be me and his job is to be him, but it's an honor nonetheless. I have a very deep inclination to psychology and human behavior on the one side, and the Islamic sciences on the other side. And I believe this gives me some uniqueness to help people at the nexus of faith and science. Where these two meet, that's where I can help people the most. Many people are thriving in their careers, for example, but they lack spiritual fulfillment. And I'm seeing an increase in requests from especially business people, especially very successful business people, who want to continue their success, but they want to add that level of spirituality and that integration of the Islamic dimension into their lives. I think this is happening because we're becoming more conscious of both our internal world, right, our soul, and our external world. And I think the entire world is becoming much more conscious about many things. It's very strange, for example, to see a movie, an old movie, with people smoking in a restaurant, for example, because that's unheard of today. In most, if not all countries, that's not allowed anymore. So there's a heightened consciousness of people in various aspects of life. I'm very skeptical about people who are fanatical on the faith side without any considerations of physical realities. You cannot, for example, pray all night for sustenance, which is rizq in Arabic, and yet you don't go out and seek work during the day. These things don't make sense. Recently, I met up with an old friend from high school. I haven't seen her in a number of years, and we had a catch up and we started chatting, and she had just come out of a clinic for depression. And as you will agree, depression and mental health issues are becoming prevalent and a real serious issue in our communities across the world. And she had just come out of this clinic, but her mother, this is a Muslim lady, her mother would not visit her at the clinic while she was there. And she said to me that her mother said to her, "You don't need to be at that place, at that clinic. Because all you need to do is pray. You have to make dua, supplicate to God, and you'll be fine. This is absurd. Ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah. Dua, supplication, is worship. Ad-du'a mukhul ibadah. Dua or supplication is the core or the essence of worship. These are the prophetic hadith. And we know this. We know the importance of dua, but that's only one side of the equation. We also have to take the means to get help. We also have to follow the science. We cannot simply make dua and not do anything about our circumstance. I learned a great lesson in 2005. I was on a spiritual tour in Pretoria with our teacher, Sheikh Hazim Abu Ghazala, and the morning spiritual programs are very intense. They normally run from about 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. And on one of these mornings, after the entire program was done, I found some quiet time with Sheikh Hazim and I went to go and speak to him. And I said to him that I was thinking about relocating to Australia. That idea has since passed, but I asked him for advice about this. His very first and immediate response to me was, "Can you find work there?" Now, that sort of intrigued me because this was the response and the first question from a man who is a spiritual guide. We've just spent a spiritual program, but he was talking about the practical reality. Can I find work there? And I learned a lot by that simple interaction with him. So in any endeavor, you seek the spiritual dimension and you pray about it, but you also have to take into consideration the physical aspects. Shaykh Hamza Yusuf condensed this very well. He said, the Quran is to metaphysics what Newton is to physics. And I think this is profound because they work together. This nexus of faith and science has been the main interest of my studies and my work. Here are some brief examples of the connections that I've made between faith and science. Firstly, when I teach gratitude, I often mention Dr. John DeMartini's book, Count Your Blessings. It's an excellent read, and the connection, the nexus point I make with this book is that this entire book complements a verse in the Quran. The verse says, La in shakartum la azidannakum. If you thank God, He'll give you more. Count your blessings, right? That's the connection point. And an interesting fact, one night after an event with Dr. John DeMartini, I spoke to him and I said, I love your book and that this book complements the meaning of the verse, La in shakartum la azidannakum. He wasn't surprised. He looked at me and he said that he has read the Quran cover to cover in English 8 times. And I think that's amazing. Here's another example. Something I've learned from Dr. Covey is that we see the world not as it is, but as we are. We see the world not as it is, but as we are. I teach this very often when I teach paradigms. I try and help people to take full responsibility for their lives and how they view different situations. And I try to move people away from having a victim mentality. Our internal framework will determine what we experience externally in the world. This saying by Dr. Covey, the world is not as it is, the world is as we are, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's a scientific phenomenon called the Pygmalion effect. Now this is found in Islam as well. In a Hadith Qudsi, God says, I am as my slave expects me to be. I am as my slave expects me to be. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's another example of self-fulfilling prophecies in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second caliph of Islam. A man had just returned from Sham, the greater Syria region, and Umar asked him, how did you find Sham, Syria? And he said, oh, it's so beautiful, there are so many mosques, there are so many good people, etc., etc. And he only spoke good about Asham. Later, a different man returned from Asham, and Umar asked him, how is Asham? And the man started complaining. Oh, this is wrong, that's wrong, this is bad, that is bad. And Umar, looking at both of these two men's experiences, he said, every man seeks who he is. Every man seeks who he is. Meaning, who he is inside is who he will find outside, externally, in the world. When I teach change, changing in our lives to become better people, I also revert to a story of Umar. Now, an important point to note is that for Muslims at least, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the exemplar. He is the best example of character, of goodness, of kindness, of love, etc. But he is not the example of change because he did not change from bad to good. He was always good. So I believe, in my opinion, the best example of change is Umar. In the early days, before Umar became Muslim, he wanted to kill the Prophet. Think about that. To Umar, the Prophet was the enemy, and he wanted to kill him. And, just before he attempted to do that, he actually heard verses of the Quran being recited, verses from Surah Taha, and this actually shifted his heart. He had a change of heart and he became Muslim. Now, him becoming Muslim, obviously a great thing, but there's a hadith from the Prophet where the Prophet said, if there was to be a prophet after me, it would have been Umar. That is change. So from someone who wanted to kill the Prophet, he moved his life, he changed to a point where the Prophet said about him, if there was to be a prophet after me, it would have been Umar. When I teach tawakkul, trusting in God, having faith that God will take care of things, I have a favorite story of Ali ibn Abi Talib, which I teach. Ali is also the cousin of the Prophet, peace be upon him. I won't relate the whole story, but that's my sort of go-to story. Recently, a woman I coached was being ridiculed, her reputation was being tarnished, and I went through a process with her in the coaching, and one of the things that I taught her was the story of the lie against Sayyidah Aisha, the wife of the Prophet and the daughter of Abu Bakr. And I taught her the story for consolement, number one, and also for the lessons of the story. I also teach Adabul Ikhtilaf, the etiquette of disagreements. Another example is that when I'm dealing with family dynamics, and I deal with that quite a lot, then my go-to story is Surah Yusuf, the whole chapter in the Quran about the family situation and the life of Prophet Yusuf. Many people isolate, Muslims, they isolate their faith to their ritual acts of worship. So they're Muslim when they pray, they're Muslim when they fast. But then there's this whole other area of their life that they don't have a connection with to Islam. So this is what I try to bring. So in everyday life, while you're living in this world, while you're getting on with your work and your business and your career and your relationships with people, professional and personal, how does your faith inform you how to deal with certain things? So my studies of where science and faith connect will never end. It's deeply interesting to me, and I also find that it resonates with people because I believe people are searching, they're seeking, and once you can package things for them and explain things to them in a way that is understandable, number one, but also meaningful, then it actually does make a change in their lives. I don't only work with Muslims though. I'm coaching a client right now who's in the corporate world in Joburg, and she came to me because her last few jobs, she's had battles with people in the workplace. And I've helped her through that, but through a recent assignment that I gave her, it was unveiled to me that she did something very bad a few years back, which she regrets, something personal outside of the workplace, which she regrets, and now that burden is still on her shoulders, and it's actually affecting many aspects of her life. So I'm helping her to forgive herself, and although she's not Muslim, I still use the principles of both my faith, the Islamic sciences, and also psychology and human behavior to help her forgive herself. Of course, as some of you might know, I do a lot of corporate work as well. I also lecture and teach at tertiary institutions like Stellenbosch University, CPUT, Cape Peninsula University of Technology, and many places where it's not predominantly Muslim. My work resonates much more with Muslims. However, I need to work harder actually to broaden my appeal to more people, because although I'm proud to be Muslim, I recognize that I'm part of a human family and we all have to share this planet together. This is an overview of my journey from seeking to having found my purpose. I shared with you some detail, but trust me, that's just an overview. I've left a lot of the more finer detail of the story, but I wanted to give you some idea. Your life has meaning too, but you might just not be seeing it yet, but it's there. The meaning, which is called ma'na in Arabic, the meaning is there. It's just about unlocking that meaning. God does not do anything in jest. You were not created in jest. You were created for an absolute purpose, not for a random or a general purpose. You were created for an absolute purpose, and that purpose is unique to you. Like my purpose is unique to me. I believe everyone was created with different loves and aspirations in their hearts, because we were meant to do different things on earth. Now, let's get into why I went to Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins. There are two reasons. Firstly, it was a show of gratitude to this man who was my door into leadership and psychology. There's a hadith, a prophetic narration, which says, "He who is not thankful to people cannot be thankful to God." He who is not thankful to people cannot be thankful to God. All the work that I've been blessed to do is due to a single infomercial I saw from Tony way back in 2003. I've been blessed to travel the world and impact people's lives both on a professional and a personal level. Seeing the results of this work has made me want to contribute as well. So I've tried many different ways to contribute. One of them is something that many of you will know about. In July this year, I offered 30-minute coaching sessions for free. And I had a 24-hour window where people could apply, and applications came from all over South Africa, even from New Zealand, Canada, and Egypt, because people really wanted to take advantage of this, and I was very, very happy to do that. Tony Robbins is foundational in all of this. He's a key factor in me being able to do this work today. So gratitude is the first reason I went to UPW. The second reason is that I wanted to see firsthand how Tony makes impact at such a large scale. After coaching for 10 years into 11 countries, I'm getting results very similar to Tony, but nowhere near to the scale that he does it. The UPW event attracts 10,000 people, and the largest audience that I've had is 600 people. So you can tell by those numbers the vast difference in the scale of our impact in the world. So I went to UPW to see this large event in action. You can watch a video online, you can read about it, but nothing compares to experiential knowledge. I had to be there myself. I wanted to see how Tony delivers, and I wanted to see all the mechanics that goes into putting together such a big event. I just said that I achieve results similar to Tony. Now, that's a very bold statement to make, and let me explain. There's a Netflix documentary called I'm Not Your Guru. You might have seen it. It's a documentary covering Tony's 6-day event, which he has every year, called Date with Destiny. The opening scene of this documentary is a little clip of an intervention Tony has with a guy who's on the verge of committing suicide. But they play a small clip of that, and then they actually go into the opening of the documentary and explaining what this is about. And then you see Tony coming onto the stage and welcoming people to the event. And Tony's first question to the audience is, what's an area of your life that is not the way you want it? That's his first question. A young lady, Sienna, raises her hand. She's 17 years old. Sienna's response to what she's frustrated about is her diet. After a few back and forth questions, Tony gets to the real issue. It has nothing to do with her diet. It actually has to do with unresolved issues with her father, who is a drug user. Look at the contrast between these two things: diet and a drug abusing father. And this is Tony's mastery, how he can really isolate what the real problem is just in a conversation. Now I'll tell you a parallel example in my work. A lady contacted me via Facebook saying that she wants help in her career. So she wants me to coach her to help her in her career. So we schedule an appointment and she comes to see me, and she starts explaining her dilemma in her career. So I'm listening carefully, and the role of the coach is to listen carefully to both what is said and what is unsaid, and to make sense of what's going on. And she says to me that she's in real estate and she used to sell soul mandates in a day, and now she takes more than a month. And she says, something is really wrong, I'm not performing anymore, and I need help. So I'm listening, and I'm sitting there and thinking, what went wrong? What went wrong from when you were performing to now that you're not performing? That's A. B, I'm thinking, are you even in the right career? Right? Are you even in the right career? And I'm sitting and I'm listening. After about 30 minutes, her husband comes up in the conversation. And I quickly realize that there's no issue really in her career. The real issue is that she's in an oppressive marriage. And this oppressive marriage is starting to affect everything in her life, and including her career, mainly her career. We immediately stop talking about her career and we start focusing on her marriage and the situation that she finds herself in. And interestingly, over the next few weeks, even not handling her career in our coaching sessions, her career starts to flourish and she starts making bold and big, decisive moves in her career, which she really couldn't do before that. There are some other interesting points to mention about this case study, but I will leave that for another day. Right now, my main point is that she came to me for career coaching, but actually her problem in her life was her marriage. This is what we often do as human beings. We focus on low-level stuff to avoid paying attention to the things that really matter, the real burning issues in our lives. Sienna, in the Tony Robbins example, was focusing on her diet when the real issue was her drug-abusing father. My client was focusing on her career when the real issue was actually her marriage. Now, it took me 30 minutes to reach this breakthrough with my client. If you watch the I'm Not Your Guru documentary, it takes Tony 3 minutes to get to the father matter with Sienna. The results are the same, I just take longer. Granted, Tony's been doing this for 42 years, and I wasn't even born when he started. Tony allowed Date with Destiny to be filmed for Netflix with one condition. The condition was that they could not broadcast for at least a year after the event. And the reason is that Tony wanted to show the results of the interventions that he had during the documentary. And if you watch it, at the end you'll see updates of the lives of the people that you see in the documentary. And this condition is actually not, you cannot see this on Netflix, but I found it out in my research. I'm the same way. I'm focused on the results as well. I always tell my clients that my primary concern is not the actual coaching session. I'm more focused on what happens afterwards. When they leave, what happens in their lives? What happens, as they progress? What are the results that they attain? Now let's talk about my 4 big impacts at UPW. My first big impact was the people. I was with 10,000 people from all different countries who all came to the same event for the same reason: to grow, to learn, to expand their personal lives, to expand their businesses, and to become better people. From day one, I met amazing people, and I'm positive that many of them will become lifelong friends. I have the same experience when I attend Islamic classes or Islamic retreats or intensive learning programs. The people I have met at these places over the years have become lifelong friends. If the people around you in your daily life are not like you, they don't aspire to the same things, whether they're friends or family, love them, but find people who aspire to the same things that you do. Find a peer group that can help you and you can help them to get further along. This is suhbah, or association or companionship, being with the right people. My second big impact at UPW was the intensity of the event. Now, I knew Tony ran marathon events, but experiencing it was totally phenomenal. On the first day, Tony was on the stage for 7 hours, 7 straight hours. And then he went off stage for about 30 minutes, came back, and he was on stage for another 4 hours. That is intense. UPW runs for 4 days, and each day is 12 to 14 hours long. And there's only one break per day. And it just doesn't stop, right? People walk in and out, and people take a little break, they go to the toilet, they go and buy some food, but the event runs non-stop. That intensity made a very, very big impact on me. And people are glued for the whole 12 to 24 hours. People are learning, people are engaged the whole time. All Tony's events are like this. Date with Destiny also runs about 12 hours a day, and that runs for 6 days. And this intensity is what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, very difficult name to pronounce, what he calls being in the state of flow. Being so engaged in what you do that time doesn't matter. You don't keep looking at your watch. You don't keep thinking about other things. You're totally present and you're in flow. And I'm very blessed to experience that in my work, whether it's speaking or coaching as well. While we're talking about the intensity of UPW, let me quickly say something about the loud music and the jumping that Tony does at his events. For years, I proudly said that my delivery of my work is different to Tony. I always likened myself to Dr. John DeMartini. We deliver in a very composed manner, as you can see even in this video, and it's more of an intellectual exercise. Tony, however, has loud music and lots of lights and jumping, and it's a total different atmosphere. And I just saw myself as different to that. I always said, look, my delivery is like DeMartini, although I take from Tony's work. Now, many people judge and dismiss Tony because of this loud music and jumping. So because of that, they don't actually pay attention to anything that he says. And I'm not that way inclined. For me, I will overlook something that is not, doesn't resonate with me necessarily, but I will take that which benefits me. And my paradigm for this, my foundation for this, is a saying by Imam Malik. Imam Malik said that from any man, take what you want, but from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, take everything. So that's sort of my foundation. Being at the event, though, I can tell you this. The enjoyment and energy that people are engaged in, definitely, without a doubt, it helps in the learning. Because people are in a high energy mode, they're excited, they're jumping up and down, and in between all of that, there's lots of hardcore learning. And I don't think a 12 to 14 hour day could be pulled off in a manner like this, engaging without high energy, etc. So agree with it or disagree with it if you want, but really can tell you for sure that it works, and it definitely does make a big impact. My third big impact at UPW is the Firewalk. Now, many people have asked me about this. I've shared a video of my Firewalk online, so some of you have seen it. I can tell you it's life-changing. I knew full well that the Firewalk was going to take place at the end of the first day of UPW, but I simply had no interest in it. I am a fearless person. I don't fear anything, but I just didn't understand what the big deal about the Firewalk was. So my actual intention was to leave the event early on the first day. Day one was on a Friday, and my plan was to leave at 8 p.m. and to go attend a Sufi gathering in Singapore, because I'm in another country, so let's go and meet the Sufis and spend some time with them. So I was going to leave at 8, but when it got to 4 p.m. that Friday, I realized that Tony was going to be teaching far beyond 8 p.m. So I didn't want to miss out on the teaching. So I told my friends in Singapore, I sent them a text. I said, look, I won't be able to make it. I have to stay at the event. So I stay at the event, and the teaching goes on, and about 11 p.m., Tony starts speaking about the Firewalk. And as he's explaining this, it starts to become interesting to me. And I think the key thing that really got to me was when he said that it's not about the Firewalk, it's about taking the first step, right? The first step into doing anything that you're afraid of. Isn't that what holds most of us back? Just taking the first step in life in general, in anything? Isn't that first step always the most scariest? Martin Luther King Jr. said, take the first step. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Very famous quote. So as the night progressed, I started to become more excited, and I decided I'm going to do this Firewalk. It's a mental activity, right? It's pure power of the mind, and it's really phenomenal. The experience is phenomenal, because you start to really realize that you can do anything that you believe. Let me say that again. You can do anything that you believe. The unfolding of this experience was amazing. You have 10,000 people in an exhibition hall. Once Tony is done, we all move in unison towards the exits of the building to get our chance to do the Firewalk. And all you see is people. And I'm a short guy, so I just see people around me, and I hear drums playing. So there's a group of people playing drums, and every 10 or 15 minutes, you hear Tony say, fresh coals, meaning that he's telling the people to place fresh coals on the lanes. So there are multiple lanes of burning hot coals, and so you get your chance to sort of walk over any one of these lanes. Now the coals are hot. They are between 1,200 and 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's between about 650 and 1,100 degrees Celsius, right? That's the range of the heat of these coals. And you're walking over them with your bare feet, right? Really, it sounds crazy, but I did it. We all did it. I don't know of anyone who in the crowd did not do it. But what's more amazing than doing the Firewalk is your state afterwards. It's a perpetual state, even until today. that fact that you walked over fire, it really makes you feel like you can do anything. It's really, really amazing. The evening, later on the evening, at the end of the event, I saw two Asian women limping a bit, so they got a bit burnt. The next day, I met two people who said to me that they had some blisters. So some people got a bit burnt slightly, but no sort of tragic or traumatic cases. I myself didn't feel even a sensation of heat, which is amazing. And yeah, that's the Firewalk experience. Please don't try this at home though, right? You need to be in the environment, you need to be sort of trained, and then you can do it. But anyone can do it. Really, trust me, anyone can do it. My fourth big impact at UPW was a major breakthrough that I had. Now, I did not go for a breakthrough. I was not looking for one, but I found it. A breakthrough is a new and significant shift in your life. Something really significant and important that changes the course of your life. Dr. John DeMartini has a weekend seminar called the Breakthrough Experience, where he helps people achieve this over a weekend seminar. Like, he focuses on that. On day 3 of UPW, Tony teaches how to conquer limiting beliefs. A limiting belief is a story which is untrue that we tell ourselves, that we convince ourselves is true, and this story actually holds us back in our lives. So Tony teaches this on the 3rd day, and I know this stuff. I've studied Tony's content, and I teach this in my coaching. So, for example, there's a woman I coached adult who kept saying to me that no one loves me. She would say this, no one loves me. And then during the coaching sessions, she would tell me things about her life, stories about things that happened in her personal life and in her family life. And I would often point out to her the evidence that people in her life actually love her. And I identified how they express their love to her in different ways. And it wasn't an easy shift, but over time, she got to really understand that this was a limiting belief that was actually holding her back and actually causing grief to her. And then she realized that actually people do love her. Okay, so this is a limiting belief. So even though I know all about limiting beliefs, every teacher is a student. So I engaged fully in this exercise on limiting beliefs. So Tony asks you to write 3 limiting beliefs that you have, and there's a whole exercise to that. I actually wrote down 5. In the session, I wrote down 5 limiting beliefs. But this wasn't the major breakthrough, because I knew that these 5 limiting beliefs exist within me, right? And what Tony helped me though with on that day was seeing those limiting beliefs from different perspectives, which was interesting. Not the major breakthrough yet though, but it was interesting. It was kind of like like an interesting kind of process, but it wasn't that big breakthrough, that aha moment yet. Later that day, I was on a break. This was after the session. I was by myself on a break, and I was reflecting on this exercise on limiting beliefs. So like I said, I wrote down 5 in the session, but I was aware of these 5, so not such a big deal, but I did learn some new techniques, which was useful. But on reflecting, sitting alone, I realized that I had a 6th limiting belief, a big one. So let me tell you about that. In 2008, that's 11 years ago, I did work for a non-profit in Cape Town. This non-profit was and probably still is doing work all across Africa. The founder of this non-profit was a retired businessman. In his early days, he brought an international brand to South Africa and he turned it into a huge business. I'm not going to mention the brand, but trust me, you know the brand, and very likely you've used the brand as well. So this highly successful businessman retires and he starts this non-profit, and I do some work for them. This founder was very impressed with my work, and one day, smack in the middle of my training, he stops me and he says to me, "You can never teach someone to do the work that you do." And he said to me, "The only way you can grow is to learn more and charge more for your time." That was his advice to me. And I took this to heart. He was and is a good man, and he meant well for me, and I took this to heart, that my work is so specialized that I cannot teach it to others. And all I have to do is learn more and charge more. Now, there is some truth to that. But my breakthrough at UPW was realizing that this was actually a limiting belief. This was actually holding me back. This was actually causing me in different ways to isolate myself and to not teach others to be able to do what I do. Of course, no human being can be a replica of another, and no one should want to be a replica of another. But if we can teach the inner workings of what we do, we can collectively make a bigger impact in the world. And that's what Tony does. Tony does that well. He's been doing that for years. And I thought, all these years, I thought that that was not possible for me because of this limiting belief. And on the third day of UPW, I had this major breakthrough. And this really shifted me. It really, really shifted me. This advice that I received 11 years ago by a sincere, well-intending man was actually the cause of a limiting belief for me. It made me think small instead of thinking big. Now, everything is relative though, because you might say, working in 11 countries is already big, but I'm thinking of big in relation to what Tony does. So instead of doing hundreds and thousands, impacting hundreds and thousands of lives, how do you impact millions of lives? So this shift is my major breakthrough that I had, and it was really a big revelation for me. Imam Ghazali, known to many as Hujjatul Islam, the proof of Islam, said, "Knowledge without action is madness, and action without knowledge is void." So I want to talk about turning knowledge into action. There's a great myth that knowledge is power. Knowledge is not power. Putting your knowledge into action, that's where the true power is. So I had this major breakthrough at UPW, and I had to turn that into action. So since I've been back, I've been head down, working very specifically on how I take that breakthrough and I turn it into reality, into actionable things. And I've come up with 3 main ways of how I'm going to make my breakthrough a reality, into action. And I'm going to share the first way with you today. I'm very excited to share this with you. I've developed a 6-month intensive course called 6-month Purpose Deep Dive. For the next 6 months, this is going to be my primary work focus. whoever joins this course, I'll be working with you over the next 6 months to help you find your purpose. I'm going to work very closely with you to help you unlock as well as solidify what your purpose is and what your impact can be in the world based on who you are. And that's very important, based on you, who you are, because we're all different and we all have a unique place in the world. In this video, I've shared an overview of my 10-year struggle to find my purpose. That's just an overview though. In this course, I'm going to go into much more detail. And it's not that I want my story to be known, but telling my story will help you see commonalities and parallels within your life, and it'll help you make sense of your life. So, when people like Tony have done this, talking about their life and how they grew up and how their lives changed, those stories helped me make sense of my own life. So I want to do the same for you. In this course, I'm going to deconstruct everything in my life since I was 12 years old, because that's the furthest I can remember to a solid degree. I'm going to deconstruct everything in my life so that you will have the tools and some insights on how to deconstruct your own life. I'll give you 2 examples on how I use this deconstructing process. The first example is in my own life. I'm fearless. I've always been fearless. There is actually nothing in this world that I fear. But where did it come from? What made me fearless? And searching for this and deconstructing different events and moments in my life helped me understand where this fearlessness comes from. When I was 14 years old, I joined my dad one night to pick my sister up at a friend's house. So it's a weeknight, it's about 10 p.m., roads are fairly quiet, and we're driving on the M5 highway, and my dad pulls over the car and he says, "Take the wheel." And I don't hesitate. Now before this, I've driven around the block, a few times, driven up and down the road, but this was my first real experience on the open road. So we drive to an area called Newfields. We pick my sister up and we drive back home, and I did it, but my arms were stiff because I was holding the steering wheel so tightly, and that's why my arms were stiff. But I made it and I did it, and I was very, very happy with that. About 3 days later, on a Friday during the daytime, I asked my dad if I can drive that night to the mall. The B&A waterfront had just opened. So I asked my dad if I can, go to the mall with my friends. Now, I'm 14 years old, right? So firstly, my dad could have said, "No, you're nuts," right? He could have said no. Or he could have asked me one of a dozen questions. He could have asked, with who are you going? What time are you going? What time are you getting back? He could have asked all these questions, but he didn't. He simply asked me one single question. He asked me, "Are you confident that you can do it?" Okay? Are you confident that you can do it? And immediately I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay." That single conversation took about 15 seconds. 15 seconds. But that's the reason that I'm fearless still today. Because I was made to understand that if I have confidence to do something, then I can do it. So this is the power of the deconstructing process. So this is a good thing. Being fearless is a good thing. But what about bad things? So There might be a bad behavior that you have. Where does it come from? What happened 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years ago that caused this bad behavior that you experience today? This is the deconstructing process. The second example of the deconstructing process is a married couple that I coached. Both partners were in their second marriage. So they both had been married before. That didn't work out. They got married to each other. The husband had kids, but the wife did not. So he came with kids, she came with no kids. Pre-wedding day, everything is fine. Wedding day, everything is fine. Honeymoon, everything is fine. But the first night after the honeymoon that they came back to their home where they were going to, live their lives, that first night, everything changed. The wife assumed and expected to have quality time with her husband on the first night of being in their new family home. The husband, however, was not focused on that. The husband was focused on his obligation with his kids, right? His kids that he had in a previous marriage, he had an obligation to them because that night was their weekly movie night. And to him, just because he came from honeymoon now, he didn't think it necessary to neglect movie night. So he had his movie night with his kids, and he left his new wife confused. And this experience for her brought back memories of her first marriage, where she was neglected, she was sort of pushed to the side, other things were made priority over her, etc. So it brought back all of those memories. Now, when I coached this couple, it was years afterwards, right? So during that time, they had lots of arguments. They had lots of petty and big arguments, and it started to involve other family members. And what I did was I dug and deconstructed all of these events, all of these occurrences, in order to go back the furthest. That's what deconstructing is for, to go back the furthest that you can. And I unlocked this fact that all of their turmoil and their frustrations in their marriage was on that first night when they came back from their honeymoon. So this deconstructing process is extremely powerful. And during this course, I'm going to give you examples of that, and I'm going to teach you how to do that so that your life can be deconstructed. Because most people have good and bad behaviors, but they have no idea where they come from. Okay, so before I get into the specifics of the course, let's hear from a few of my friends in different parts of the world.
Hi, my name is Dave Duarte, and I'd just like to say a couple of words about Jamal Khan and his work and purpose. You see, we're living in a time where we have the opportunity to address some seriously meaningful challenges, whether it's improving people's well-being, addressing environmental challenges, reducing inequality, or creating jobs through economics, commerce, or all of this impact work that we do. And when you work in a way that's aligned with purpose, you find support that comes through. You find clarity, you find focus, you're able to align your life and move forward more quickly. But many people struggle to find their purpose. It's really challenging. We don't even know where to start. Or if you know where your purpose is, how do you take the next step? So Jamal has dedicated himself to focusing on this very challenge. His purpose is unlocking other people's purpose, and that's tremendously important work. So if you're looking to unlock your purpose, I'd encourage you to find a coach, someone who's walked the path, who's helped others walk the path, and can unlock that opportunity for you. And Jamal's spiritually grounded, authentic approach to purpose, as someone who really lives it, is likely to make a huge difference to you, as it has for me and so many others.
I know Brother Jamaaludeen Khan for more than 10 years, and I can say with confidence that he has been consistent in sharing and caring and helping others develop themselves. I think that he has found his purpose. He's constantly been developing, and he's found his purpose in helping others find theirs as well. I support all his endeavors. All of the best, Brother Jamaaludeen, and all of the best for those who take the step in joining him and registering for his workshop.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Samira and I come from Mauritius. I have known Jamaaludeen Khan, it's been like 3 years ago, through a Facebook post that Seekers Hub shared on their timeline. I remember quite well that Jamaaludeen was talking about being in the companionship of saintly men, but at the same time talking about our material pursuit, which should not drift us apart from God. That was it. That was what I wanted to hear, and that was what I was seeking for, in fact. So I was glad to know that Jamaaludeen is an internationally acclaimed thought leader, and he's a professional speaker as well as a leadership coach. And I was even more pleased to know that he has studied fiqh. So I readily enrolled myself for a 30 days it was a WhatsApp training course on goals, purpose, and power, in order to help myself put my life, my goals, but I was as well as my purpose into the right perspective. So I would highly recommend you guys to enroll for Jamaaludeen's 6-month purpose deep dive course, which is an intensive training which I'm sure will benefit you to find your purpose in life. If you feel at a loss, or you can't figure out your purpose in life, or you feel restless about it, then this course is a must for you.
Hello there, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Zafar Rana. I'm here in Toronto, Canada. I wanted to share a few thoughts with you about Jamaaludeen Khan and his course 6-month Purpose Deep Dive. I've known Jamal for about 5 years, and in all of life's travels and all the many friends that we have, Jamal is a rarity. He's an individual who I can personally vouch for is someone who is immensely dedicated to what he does. He believes in sharing the fruits of his knowledge regarding human empowerment, regarding development, regarding creating a beautiful balance in light of the spiritual guidance in our religion and the intellectual element in science, which is all from God. And Jamal is someone who's striving very well to create a very clear understanding of the truth which lies exactly in between, which creates a balance of the two. There are no extremes. Our religion teaches a balance, and he strives to teach that. And that's one of the things that I think he's shared with me as well in life, and I've definitely benefited. So I would personally urge you to consider taking this course. If you're looking for your purpose in life, a purpose where you make a difference in this world and you build your stock for the hereafter, with all the variety of information out there, I can personally vouch for Jamal's 6-month deep dive to find your purpose in life. Go for it. You will not regret it at all. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
6-month Purpose Deep Dive is an online course to help you understand your purpose and to unlock your true potential. Why were you created? What does your life mean? What is the true objective of you being on this earth? Those are tough questions. Let's get into the detail. This is a 6-month course. Many online courses will boast that they only require a commitment of a few hours per week, and they use that to attract people. I'm going to do the opposite. This is going to be a very time-consuming course. We have a ton of content to get through. I'm going to condense 16 years of learning, and that's going to require an exhaustive effort. 6 months is a very short time in relation to 60 years of life. I've had 60-year-olds cry in my coaching sessions because they don't know what their lives have meant. And that is tragic. This course is about purpose, It's about meaning. Ma'na is the word for meaning in Arabic, and everything has meaning. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did not have many possessions, but of his few possessions, like his comb, he would name them. He named them because he understood that everything, even the seemingly insignificant things, also have meaning. For most people, life does not make sense. I coached a personal friend recently. He's 45 years old, and he said to me, "My life is a cycle of failure, insecurity, and stress. I don't know who I am." In this course, we are going to work hard in search of that meaning. We're not going to play at the shore and get our feet wet. We are going to take a true deep dive into the ocean of who you are. Things at the surface don't matter much to me. I'm more concerned about the essence and origin of things. What happened 20 years ago that causes you to behave this way today? That's where the magic is. This is an immersion process. Immersion is the only way to learn. You can go to a 1-hour class once a week to learn a new language. How long is it going to take to learn that language? You guessed it, very long. However, if you moved to another country for 6 months, you'll speak that language fluently. That's immersion. All my life, I've immersed myself into learning. My life is a university. My family and close friends can testify to that. I'm insanely obsessed with learning, and I want to expose you to that. This is a mastermind group that I'm creating here. This point is extremely important and significant. I'm going to teach you all I know about purpose and all I know about connecting faith and science. If you're a Muslim, this is going to be very attractive to you. If you're not a Muslim, you will learn about Islam on a significant level. The result that I'm hoping with this mastermind group is that at least 5 of you will excel in this course so that we can join forces, work together, and create a big impact in the world. Yes, that's right. I'm going to make a coach out of you. If that's a good fit for you, and if that's what you want. I'm going to give you all I know in order to help you in your own life, but I'm also going to give you the tools to help others. I need partners, and I need people to help me make a huge difference in the world. The nexus of faith and science is my specialty. This is my gift and my grace from God. There are great people in faith and there are great people in science, but I know how to connect them. Over these 6 months, I will teach my learnings and experiences with you that I've gathered over the last 16 years. It's going to be very personal. I'm going to share case studies with you from the coaching I've done with people over 10 years in 11 different countries. On the faith side, I will teach from the Holy Quran, from the Hadith, the prophetic narrations, and from the works of Imam Ghazali, Ibn Ata'illah in his Kitab al-Hikam, and others. On the science side, I will mainly, but not exclusively, use the methodologies of Tony Robbins, Dr. Stephen Covey, and Dr. John DeMartini. Month 1 will focus on values and beliefs. What are your values? I'm not talking about religious values or moral values. Honesty and integrity, for example, are moral values. I'm talking about personal values, and we all have a hierarchy of personal values. My highest value is service, which is khidma in Arabic. Our values will steer us in different directions. Our beliefs will help us get there. If you have a value, but you don't have a congruent belief, it doesn't work. In the first month, we'll also use tools to conquer fear and limiting beliefs. Month 2 will focus on falling in love with challenge. That sounds strange. Falling in love with challenge. No one wants challenge in their lives. We prefer good times. That's natural. In this context, I'm not talking about niggling inconveniences. I'm talking about challenges that plague us for years or decades. The big stuff. What we have to realize is that challenges shape our lives much more than good times do. If you're asking, why did that happen to me? You haven't understood the meaning of your challenge, and you will not be able to love it or learn from it. There are 4 major challenges that have shaped my life. The first 2 people know about. Number 1 being my struggle to find my purpose, and number 2, the fact that I got divorced in 2008. So many people know about that. The other 2 challenges in my life which have shaped me, I will likely never share in public, but I'm going to share it on this course. There will be a confidentiality agreement with all who participate, but it is important for me to share all of these with you in an authentic way. I have embraced all these 4 challenges, and I have nothing but love for them because they've made me who I am today, and I won't trade that for anything. If you told me that by some miracle you could reverse time and help me avoid these challenges, I will say to you an emphatic no, thank you. I needed these challenges to help me grow. I see the divine order in it all. Month 3 will focus on faith and spirituality. Faith is not something you adopt. Faith is something you embrace. It's a state of being. I have done intensive Islamic training with a very long list of scholars, but I have not discarded my place in this world. So I'm not in the scholarly world, I'm in the normal world with you. The result is that many people in the corporate world, especially, consistently ask me for help to balance their worldly reality with their spiritual ambitions. Balance, though, is not needed. Integration is needed. Tony's UPW event, for example, was a spiritual event for me. On multiple occasions at the event, I cried, not from an emotional place, but from a spiritual place. Throughout the event, I was reciting praise on the Prophet, Salat ala Nabi. How did I maintain spirituality in a place that is so quote-unquote worldly? The magic happens when you focus on integration. Carry your faith within you. Don't pick up your faith only when you need it, like luggage or even baggage to some. No, you're a spiritual being. You are a soul. You're just, temporarily I might add, housed in a body of flesh and bones. God is never veiled from us. We are veiled from Him. Let me say that again. God is never veiled from us. We are veiled from Him. Month 4 will focus on self-management and mastery. The most successful person is the most disciplined person. We're going to go deep into time management and how to coordinate between different aspects of life. I'm going to teach a lot of Islamic fundamentals here. I'll teach you, for example, what Imam Ghazali says, and then I'll also teach you things from Peter Drucker, for example. We're going to analyze how to master all the fundamental areas of our life. We are going to cover forgiveness as well. This is key to healing. How do you forgive yourself and how do you forgive others? How do we heal our hearts from pain? How do we rid ourselves of suffering? This is very important for self-mastery. Month 5 will focus on constellations and purpose. A constellation is a collection of associated things. The Big Dipper is a constellation of stars. Most of us, however, when we look into the sky, all we see is randomness. The trained eye can see the Big Dipper and other constellations. Similarly, to most people, events in their life are absolutely random. They see no connection. I will show you how they all connect, because they do connect. There is a divine thread between every small and large, good and bad, seemingly significant and seemingly insignificant event in your life. Everything makes sense once it makes sense. As kids, we'd have coloring books and we'd have in them a few pages with dots and numbers. Remember those? We'd follow the number sequence and connect the dots. And once we were completed, we would see a picture, right? So this is what we're going to do on this course. We're going to connect all the dots of all the events in your life. This will inevitably result in understanding your purpose. Month 6 will focus on your economic engine. I like to call this the money month. When we understand our purpose, we have to look at economics. This is the reality of life on earth. Economics matter. Dr. Covey said it best: no margin, no mission. This is very important. No margin, no mission. If part or all of your purpose is to be a coach and to partner with me in this work, that's great. If not, your purpose will take you on a different path. Either way, you will need to be paid for what you bring to the world. As Dr. DeMartini says, your fortune lies within your values. At the end of this course, no matter what you find your purpose to be, you will be inspired to entrepreneurship. This month, we will talk about that. We are also going to cover the specifics of branding, marketing, and sales. We are also going to look at 2 very important concepts taught by Jim Collins. The first one is the hedgehog concept. The second one is the flywheel concept. These 2 concepts have been used very successfully by very large companies, including Amazon. This is the framework for each month. We'll have 1 5-hour live class each month. I will do a 2-hour one-on-one coaching session with each of you each week. So that's 4 coaching sessions for each of you each month. You will receive 1 assignment each week. So that's 4 assignments for the month. And I will review each assignment every week and provide feedback. Many coaches do not provide assignments. My theory is that the actual coaching session is my part of the partnership. That's when I deliver. The assignment is when the client delivers. That's when they need to do work. And it's part of the healing and growth process as well. The results that I've achieved with assignments continue to convince me that this is very useful and effective. I will also provide call, email, and WhatsApp support throughout the course. Even outside a course like this, I typically see clients once per week for a coaching session, and whether it's in person or online, I supplement that with email support, because during the week things come up and I allow people to stay in communication with me. We will also have a private Facebook mastermind group for all the participants in the course, and everyone will be able to engage with each other, and I will engage as well. Very excited about this one. In February 2020, I will have a live on-ground event in 4 cities for the people on this course only. One event will be in Cape Town, one will be in Johannesburg, and the 2 others will be in other countries depending on where most of the participants for this course end up being. You will also receive a full year of free coaching from me, once per month after completion of this course. You will also receive a certificate for this course. Last but not least, the top performer of this course will be sponsored to attend the Tony Robbins event which I have just returned from. Unleash the power within. The top performer will be rated on attendance, diligence in their assignments, and overall engagement across the 6 months. For all of this value, outside of this course, you would pay 32,000 Rand or $2,110 per month. And as a bonus, the top performer is going to receive a ticket to UPW, which is an additional value of about 18,000 Rand or about $1,189. But that's not what you're going to pay. This course is only going to cost you 8,000 Rand per month or $528 per month. The Rand prices are obviously for those in South Africa, and for everyone else, no matter which country you're in, the US dollars will apply to you. There's also a money back guarantee for this course. If you're not happy with what I teach you in the first month, I will refund your money, no questions. But there's more. I really grappled with how I can make this accessible to more people. So I've come up with 2 additional packages. What I've just described to you is the platinum package. Here are the silver and gold packages. In the silver package, you'll be part of the 5-hour live class each month, but there will be no one-on-one coaching in this package. You will receive 1 assignment each week, but I will not be able to give you feedback on these assignments. There will be no call, email, and WhatsApp support. You will, however, be part of our private Facebook mastermind group. You will unfortunately not have access to the February 2020 live on-ground event in 4 cities. There'll be no full year free coaching after completion of this course. You will receive a certificate after this course, and you will not be eligible to receive a sponsorship to attend the Tony Robbins UPW event. The silver package is only going to cost you 2,000 Rands per month or $132 per month. Let's look at the gold package. You will be part of the 5-hour live class each month. I will do 1-hour one-on-one coaching sessions with each of you twice a month. That's instead of 2 hours each week as in the platinum package. You will receive 1 assignment each week, so that's 4 assignments for the month, but I will not be able to give you feedback on these assignments. There will be no call and email support. You will be part of the Facebook mastermind group, and you will have full access to the live on-ground event in February 2020. There will be no free coaching after completion of this course, but you will of course receive a certificate. You will stand in line as a top performer to be sponsored to attend the Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within event. The gold package is only going to cost you 4,000 Rand per month. That's $264 per month. Please note that these are monthly fees. All these packages come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. For the silver package, I'm only accepting 200 applications. For the gold package, I'm only accepting 80 applications. And for the platinum package, which is the main course that I designed initially, I'm only accepting 20 applications. Register by clicking the link in the description of this video. Now, to get the maximum effect of what I've put together, I highly recommend the platinum package. I'll be able to work with you one-on-one, much closely, and in a much more intense manner in order to help you realize your full potential. Irrespective of which package suits you, sign up and start this journey with me. If you want to attend, I will be honored. Men and women are welcome. Kids are welcome above 17 years old. Parents, send your kids to this course. Parents, send your kids to this course. Don't let them go through life without knowing their purpose. That's it, folks. Thanks for watching this video until the very end. Please keep me in your prayers. This is very important to me. This is my life's work, and I am 100% committed and dedicated to helping people find their purpose. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. Barakallahu feekum.